This is the beautiful Redcliffe Peninsula, part of the Moreton Bay region, around 30 minutes north of Brisbane City. Not that long ago, this area was known for retirees and affordable housing by the sea. But as the inner city suburbs in major cities stretch affordability for first home buyers, the popularity of the outer ring suburbs and neighbouring towns is surging. These locations on the city outskirts, along with regional Queensland towns where your dollar goes further, are a great place to start your home ownership journey. Redcliffe, for example, is attractive due to its seaside community surrounded by sandy beaches, gourmet dining and marinas. This is where Matt and Leah decided to buy their first home. But why did they decide to buy in the first place?
We decided to buy a home, I guess, as a financial proofing. We were raised, I think, particularly myself, through my parents, being taught that a house is a great financial investment for the future. You're pretty much guaranteed returns, and it was also a place to call our own as well.
At the very start, it was just getting an idea of, what we can get for the price that we could afford.
And it started off with a bit of ruling out as well. We knew we didn't want to live on a main road, or, we wanted a certain size block. We wanted above 500 square meters, 2-3 bedrooms so we could future-proof and all those sorts of things. So that narrowed down our potential search. And then, we basically shortlisted, 10 to 15 houses that we wanted to look at during that period and went from there.
The process for me was a little bit unfamiliar. I wasn't super aware of what was involved. I think even prior to marriage, I had not really given much thought to buying a house, so it was all very new for me, but I think Matt had done a bit more.
Yeah, I think I had a bit of a ballpark of an idea, but I spent a bit of time talking to a broker and getting my head wrapped around the finances and what banks would be looking for and all those sorts of things. So once we were in that place of starting to get our ducks in a row, we went to the mortgage broker. He basically confirmed what we had saved and what we were building up in regards to job rapport and all those sorts of things. We're ready to go. And then so during that process, we were starting to look at the market just to see what was reasonable, what was unreasonable at the time, and what we would sort of get for our dollar. Within that process, we had a broker who recommended a solicitor to us. They work hand in hand, so made that whole process very simple and easy for us. There was obviously the real estate agent involved, and then on top of that as well, we also utilised the building and pest just from the local area, and I would 100% recommend having one if you are looking at buying a house. When it comes to the negotiations with your solicitor and pricing and all those sorts of things post your offer, building and pest can really play a massive part within that role. We were able to then sort of negotiate 10 grand off ours in the end by looking at things that could be done, needed to be done, should have been done.
I think the most help we got though was our broker. Our broker answered all our questions.
Even the silly ones that we were like, can we ask that?
Yeah, and he was really good. He was like, just give me a call like anytime, like doesn't matter if it's outside of hours, if you've got any, questions on, application forms or what things mean. He was super helpful.
As Matt and Leah found, buying your first home requires finding the right people: mortgage brokers, real estate agents, solicitors and pest and building inspectors. They ticked all the crucial steps in the process and they knew the area they wanted to buy in. But the one thing that was missing was the home itself. How did they know when they had found their dream property?
So once we'd found a few places that were meeting the criteria that we were after, we went to a couple of open homes and had a look at them. I think we settled on this one, because it was, for the price, it was in a lot better condition than a lot of other places that we'd seen for the same or similar price.
Yeah. It also just had great potential. Something that I was particularly looking for was a place that wasn't already massively renovated, so I wasn't paying for something that potentially I didn't like or Leah wanted to change. And so this place was kind of bare bones. It needed a fresh coat of paint. It didn't really have any gardens, or the fence was a cyclone fence, so I could see things that I could do myself and improve the value of. And then I also knew that, it had great potential in regards to its structure and what was already existing to be able to build upon and make an offer on it. Don't bother waiting around, because if it ticks those boxes that those other ones hadn't met, it'll get you ahead. And so that way you don't feel so overwhelmed and drowned of what happens if something else, or what if, or so on and so forth. And so yeah, when I had that sort of nestled in my head of, all right, we've got a great pool to look at, and when we came to this one, it met all of our criteria, I could sort of say comfortably, look, it may not be perfect or it may not have this or this, but it ticks everything else in all the other circumstances, and we haven't seen anything else that matched, so why not put an offer on it?
The day that we put the offer in, they had said to us that they'd had one previous offer prior to us that was much lower than they were hoping for.
We put the offer in that afternoon, and that night we received a phone call saying, what's your highest and final offer?
Oh, yeah.
And I was kind of in the headspace, I was like, I'm not going to bid against myself. So we sort of took a step back and said, look, if she can come to us with a figure that she wants and would be happy to settle on, maybe we could meet her halfway, but I'm not just going to bid against myself considering there weren't any other offers in the pool at the same time. So I think it was maybe 2 or 3 days later, the real estate called us again and said, look, she'd be happy to settle on this figure. And in the sort of excitement of the moment, it was a little bit higher than we had originally offered, but we were just kind of like, oh, okay, sure, why not? We crumbled even though we said we'd hold strong. And so anyway, yeah, we settled on a number between the owner and ourselves, and yeah, went from there.
Right now, eligible first home buyers can utilise the federal government's First Home Guarantee Scheme, where the government will provide a guarantee of up to 18% on the deposit for a first home, therefore allowing you to avoid paying expensive lender's mortgage insurance. The scheme is for properties valued up to $700,000 in Brisbane and $550,000 in regional Queensland. In Queensland, you may also be eligible to receive $30,000 towards buying or building a new home valued up to $750,000. The First Home Guarantee Scheme was slightly different at the time when Matt and Leah made their purchase, but the question is, did they find it beneficial?
We actually ended up utilising the government scheme, which at the time was they would become our guarantor for up to 15%. It may change within sort of the near future, but that way we didn't have to put in as much of our cash into it, sit it in an offset account, but then we had that sort of spare cash there to be able to utilise on renovations and upgrades as we went. But it just seemed like the safer option. It saved us sort of sinking, a 16 odd grand into LMI and considerably dwindling our deposit, whereas if we utilised the government scheme, made it a little bit more viable and beneficial at that time for us. So yeah, I think if we were to do it again, this came to mind before, of probably holding to our guns that little bit more. In the excitement when we crumbled to that, new offer from the owner, I think potentially we could have gotten away with holding to where we were and so on and so forth. But overall, I can't really fault it. I think we're stoked with what we had in the end.
It's been about a year since Matt and Leah moved into their first home, so they've had time to settle in and they've reflected on what they might do differently. But what can first home buyers learn from their experience?
A good thing would be to maybe write a list of things that you'd like and just start looking at what the price is for something like that and see what's around, but then probably just talking to a broker.
I think get people around you that are a bit older than you as well, a bit of a mentor, whether that's someone sort of around where you live, whether that's a parent or a family friend that, has a home and is somewhere you sort of want to get to. I think that's an awesome place to start. And then, yeah, I would 100% recommend chatting to a broker. They're free of charge because they get paid by the banks and they'll supply you all the information you potentially could need or ask any questions you need. I would probably recommend getting in as early as you can. Just if you start having the idea of maybe I want to buy a house, go have a chat to someone. There's no harm in starting that ball, and I would say the same thing. Even if you feel like you're not ready yet, just get a ballpark idea. Chat to a broker, figure out what it is that you may need to get or do to be able to tick those boxes and go from there. I think it's your best bet.
And what's the takeaway for real estate agents?
Maybe to make the process easier, the agent could maybe give you, especially if you've disclosed that it's your first home that you're hoping to get, maybe just giving you a heads up on maybe that first 48 hours, and there's going to be a lot of paperwork and stuff that you have to go through, so just be prepared. Would have maybe even just been a nice thing to...
It's fantastic. It feels really good to be in our own place. It's fantastic to make this house a home and make it our own as well. It's really, really good.